Grim news this morning in the fight against COVID-19. More Americans have now died from coronavirus in less than 2 months than the entire 9 years of the Vietnam War, more than 58,000 people. But the U.S. crossed another threshold yesterday, 1 million known coronavirus cases in the U.S. That is nearly 1/3 of all the world's known coronavirus cases. Now, there is reason for optimism this morning, and that's one of the reasons why we're seeing stock futures rallying. Gilead says early results of coronavirus drug trials show improvement with shorter remdesivir treatments. For the latest on this, let's check in with Anjalee Khemlani. Anjalee?
Thanks, Alexis. Yeah, so we did get the news this morning that, as we know, the world has literally been waiting for in order to boost that confidence to get out again. Gilead did announce that they've got positive news coming out of 2 trials. One is the company-sponsored trial of severe patients, and they were given 5-day treatments and 10-day treatments. And it basically is, if you've ever taken a Z-Pak, it's the similar concept of a double dose on the first day and then reducing to a single dose in the following days. And so with that level of treatment, they saw improvement in severe patients. And those are patients who had symptoms and were treated within 10 days, but were not on ventilators. And they're also focusing now on an expansion of this study to include those who are on ventilators and will be taking this through an IV. And in addition, the study that's being done with the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Disease, which, as we know, the director is Dr. Anthony Fauci. That study is the one that has more weight to it because it is the placebo-controlled study and is not the company-sponsored one. So we're still waiting for the full results on that one. As we know, they're just sort of the outcomes that they've seen, and they do need to push it through peer-reviewed journal publishing. So we're waiting for that to happen. But as of right now, it does sort of give you that optimism that the outcomes that they did expect on this drug are in fact showing through.
Definitely encouraging news, Anjalee. I want to talk about testing right now. What is the latest on testing? Are enough tests being handed out throughout the country? I got an email yesterday from CityMD because I was a patient there a couple times, and so they sent this blast email out saying, we have tests, come in and get tested. Where does this country stand right now on testing?
Right. So we're seeing a pivot now, actually, in what the provider community and the labs are doing. We know that in conversations that I've had with Quest and LabCorp, they've been taking on sort of the lion's share of the testing, if you will, partnering with all the drive-through sites and pharmacy and retail sites. And so what's happened is there was a limit. The CDC had set a limit on who could be tested, and it was really focusing on severe patients and those that they really needed to test. Meanwhile, asymptomatic people or those who seemed like they had mild or moderate cases would not get tested because there was a concern about the supply chain. Now, that supply chain concern still exists, but we've expanded. The CDC has, in fact, expanded the criteria of who can get tested. Meanwhile, the FDA has approved a dozen more testing machines and types of tests. So that has really increased the capacity for these labs to be able to process. And so you're seeing that all come together with more availability than the demand, as people have stayed away, as they've been told that they can't be tested or turned away. So now you're seeing sort of a break in that, and that has a lot to do with the new focus that we have right now on reopening and making sure that everyone does have access to a test. Alexis.
All right. Thanks for the wrap up, Anjalee Khemlani.